Chapter 5. Becoming.
Tyler hiked around happily for a week, although at night he howled in pain. His body was feeling as if it was changing. Each night the pain became worse and worse, and would last longer and longer. Tonight was not looking good. He hobbled another piece of wood on the fire. He plopped down on the ground, wincing in pain on the way down. He started much earlier tonight than he had in the past, and the pains were more intense than they had ever been before. He stared at the stars and wondered what was happening to him. For the first time in his life he was happy, and now he felt as if he were dying. His breath was labored. For a moment he was allowed to rest, and then he felt a sharp pain in his stomach, and then it sank in, full bore. He screamed and wriggled around on the ground. In the light of the fire, Tyos was being born from his old form. The entire time he was being watched by Bourdon. About 3 hours into the blinding assault, he was momentarily let go. He lay breathing, labored. He didn't know how much more he could handle, and then a voice came out of the dark.
"It is difficult, but you can get through it," Bourdon said,
answering the question that had been going through his head. "Who's there?" Tyler croaked out into the dark. He had hoped to sound strong, but it was easy to hear his weakness. He lay against a rock, trying to look into the dark.
"A friend. It goes in waves. You are just starting, but I will be here when you wake."
He replied to all questions, except the one he had asked out loud. The pain started to hover in again, and he knew the stranger was right. "How do you know all this?" Bourdon stood and stepped into the light of the fire. Tyler looked up and his breath caught.
"Because I have been through it," Bourdon growled.
Tyler looked in awe and fear as Bourdon stood before him, 7-foot frame towering over him. He was no man at all. It had been a creature that looked like a powerful cross between a man and a wolf. His body mostly human traits, although his legs were a bit shorter. His head leaned more toward the wolf side, although he could show emotion better. He sat by the fire warming his hands. He smiled at Tyler. Tyler screamed in fear, but Bourdon raised his hand in surrender.
"There is no need to fear. I will not harm you.
Save your strength for the upcoming fight," Bourdon replied. He had a small grin on his face. Tyler stopped and looked at Bourdon straight in the eyes. He was telling the truth. "What is happening to me?" Tyler balked out as the pain started to grab hold.
"Nothing wrong. You are one of the few. You are of the wolf. You need to turn into what I am," Bourdon replied.
Tyler could barely see the fire anymore when the question was answered. A werewolf? Him? Was the last thought he had before he was just howling in pain. For 6 hours this wave lasted, and Bourdon watched over the young wolf being born. When the haze of pain lifted, again the fire was still being tended by Bourdon.
"Ah, you're back," Bourdon growled out.
"Please kill me," Tyler croaked out.
"Oh no, I'm very happy about your arrival. You are about to go through the hardest part of the conversion. You should relax."
He handed him a skin of water, and Tyler drank all of it eagerly. Tyler laid back on the ground. "Why the hell is this happening to me?" Tyler asked.
"You're lucky,"
Bourdon said with a toothy grin. That was still a bit scary to Tyler.
"I don't know why. I just know what,"
Bourdon said with a chuckle. "It will end," although Tyler noted he did not mention how long until it did end. Tyler slipped back into his conversion, although if you would have asked him, he would have told you it was more like an execution. This time he was assaulted for 2 solid days, and when he came out, he was a wolf with a stunning gray and black coat. He was even larger than Bourdon by an inch or two. However, Bourdon had most noticed his eyes. They were a misty gray. When you looked at them, it looked as if moving clouds were trapped inside of them. "Is that it?" Tyler asked.
"Well, yes, but you must eat or drink something. Your body needs nourishment."
Tyler got up and grabbed this water skin, and he drank it dry, and then he saw what Bourdon had on the menu for eating. Before him lay a few squirrels. He tried to grimace at the sight, but it came out more as a snarl. The fire burned, but the night was different. Bourdon picked up one of the squirrels and chomped down on it. "Eat," he said. "I can't eat that," Tyler replied, although his stomach groaned for the food. "Try. You may be surprised." Tyler was so hungry he could not fight it any more. He reached out and grabbed the squirrel. That is when, for the first time, Tyler saw his front claw. He pulled his arm back and started to breathe heavy. "I've changed," he said. "Yes, I had mentioned that before," Bourdon said with a toothy grin, and then he added, "But yes, you have. Your conversion is complete," Bourdon replied, and again with a toothy grin. He understood that the boy had just gone through a great deal of pain, but it made him very happy to see a member of his own kind again. Something Bourdon had accepted would most likely never happen for him. But here one sat, dropped directly in his lap. Tyler reached out and grabbed the squirrel and bit into it. He found that the taste was not half bad. He ate them and then laid on his back. "You need to rest, but before you go off again, may I know your name?" Bourdon asked. Tyler leaned up. "Sure, my name is Tiles," he stumbled out. He tried again. "Tiles." Still, he could not say his own name. Bourdon smiled. "Some sounds in human language become hard to make. It is good to meet you, Tiles," he smiled. Tiles then lay on his back. The food weighed heavy on his stomach, and his body craved rest. He turned his head and looked at Bourdon. "When you wake, we shall go for a run," he said with a large smile. But Tiles, the werewolf, had slipped off to sleep. Bourdon sat by Tiles to make sure he was undisturbed.